Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. The U.S. Navy defeats the Sooners 21-20 in the Armed Forces Bowl. Brent Venables is now 0-3 in bowl games. The fitting, sad end to a pathetic season is upon us. I'm Steve.
Jay.
Connor. Lucas.
And we'd like to thank our sponsors. We've got two sponsors tonight. So this is sort of a joint podcast between a post game as well as a midweek. It'll serve both purposes. So that means we need to give a salute out to Little Debbie. That's been our go-to sweet treat this holiday season. I want to remind everybody that Valentine's cakes are on the way. They'll be out in stores soon, right? Now? They're out now? What are we doing here? Let's get out to the store. And we'd also like to thank Dr. Michael Kiehn, board-certified surgeon specializing in orthopedic sports medicine, taking care of kids throughout, and not just kids, but obviously a lot of kids that play sports. He is out, I'm sure, getting his share of Valentine's Day cakes right now because he's got better things to do with his time than watch a team that cannot win a game. So one of us was at the game.
I was there.
He was there. He was there.
I was realistically there.
You were very realistically there. Yeah,
Yep.
Sadly, unfortunately, realistically there.
Yep.
Tell us about it. What'd you see? What's the story from the field?
I can tell you that that's the best run bowl game that I've ever been to. Crowd was great.
How does it compare? Also, not just bowl game, but also like visiting stadiums when you've been.
Stadium was fantastic.
Okay.
I put it up there with Baylor's new stadium,
Wasn't
K-State's newer stadium. I was really impressed.
basement concourses.
Yeah, plenty of room to walk around. Concession stands, line. They were all the concession stands were manned for a bowl game. Shocking.
Did they run out of everything like early on?
Getting in, I think I got through in about, I don't know, 7 minutes maybe.
Through the metal detectors?
No metal detectors. Last I heard, there were no shootings or stabbings, but who knows? I mean, it was military, so maybe they just figured, they're safe, even though, we've heard of some
Could go the other way.
mental issues with some military stuff in the past on some bases. But getting in was easy. It was general admission in the end zones, and then the 200 and 300 levels on, I don't know which side it was, I guess the west side. And the crowd was great, and OU still sucks. I got excited when 8 minutes into the game, we were up 14-0. I thought, man, we're picking up first downs. I'd heard on Gabe's podcast that Navy did not play well against teams that went fast. So when we went fast the first couple drives, I was like, yeah, let's do this. We're going to put up some points today. And then Joe John decided to, I don't know, go to the bathroom and shit his brains out. I don't know, because he decided to not do anything at all resembling a functional offense for the next 3 or 2.5 quarters until the final drive, which still wasn't that great of a drive. But I sat there and watched Ivan Carrion, who is listed at 6'6", go against a corner that was maybe 5'10", and he was running crisp routes. He was getting open over and over, and he ended up with 7 catches, which I thought it might be 4 or 5. But in the final stats, he had 7 catches. He could have caught 18 balls for 300 yards if Michael Hawkins would have looked to his left after taking the snap, because they just didn't do it. He was beating his guy on post routes. He was beating his guy on hitch routes. He was beating his guy dragging across the middle of the field. And what did we do? 7 catches seems like great for this offense, but he could have been incorporated.
We've had games that I don't think we had 7 catches, period.
He could have been incorporated so much better. And to just, once they saw that mismatch and how easy it was for him to get open,
You should have just abused it.
I don't know why Arbuckle, being the quarterback coach, didn't point it out, or Joe John didn't figure it out. I mean, I know why Joe John didn't figure it out, because he sucks at his job. But I don't know why, honestly, they didn't just convert Carry On to play tight end, because he's a better receiver than Bauer Sharp, and he's probably a better blocker than Bauer Sharp. And so, to me,
that's not honestly, a high hurdle.
It's a shame that he didn't play more this season.
Absolutely,
it makes no sense to me. And then the running back situation,
even without converting, why don't you just play?
Why Sawchuk is out there more than Robinson is DeMarco should be fired if it was his decision to play the game like this.
Well, and Brent's defense of that decision.
What do
in
you
the
say?
postgame. That Sawchuk had the hot hand, so that's who we rolled with.
The
Had the
hot
hot
hand.
hand after one
At what?
drive.
Yeah.
Like after one drive, he said he has the hot hand and we're gonna roll with it. Okay, explain to me why Sam Franklin is out there before Robinson
Right.
and goes for 2 straight drops and then doesn't see the field. And then all right, maybe we bring in the guy who's been probably our most consistent offensive player over the last 3 games. And
Well, I'm gonna hope
we don't see much of him.
I'm gonna hope that that comment was coach speak BS, and that's not the reason because
I think it
that
probably
doesn't make
was.
sense.
But I'm so tired of this coach speak BS.
Oh, I am too.
Like
That's
it's so
that's
like
ridiculous.
at this point, and this whole thing about himself looking in the mirror and he takes all the blame and everything else. Like, yeah, great. Like everyone else is blaming you, but go do something about it. Like I'm so sick of this. We've got to be better.
And playing Franklin before Tatum, I mean, maybe because of the fumble issue and why he got pulled before, but for Robinson to not be
Tatum's a receiving running back.
the first guy that went out there, okay, because you're going to give Sawchuk loyalty points and start him. But for Robinson to be the fourth running back to touch the field was
Absurd.
completely ridiculous.
I think the only reason I can see that making sense, and I'm being charitable here, is if they're looking at it saying this is a meaningless ball game, we don't want to risk your injury, we don't want to risk. We
had a
do
little
want
bit of a hip
to
issue
give some
against LSU.
loyalty back to. So I don't know.
That was 3 weeks ago.
What I don't
Well,
understand is at the end of the game, when you are, especially when you're calling plays where the running back's going to stay home to block, why you have Sawchuk in who cannot block. That didn't make any sense. That's why we didn't get the 2-point conversion, or part of why we didn't. So I don't understand.
We
that
also didn't hand
decision.
it to Robinson on the 4th and 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. We got too cute. I mean, Joe John Finley had his fingerprints all over mistakes today. It just is. It's pathetic. It's sad. It's not what we deserve, and
It's just exhausting.
it is exhausting.
Well, what's ridiculous is the thing you're talking about, Connor. That's not something that has to wait till the end of the game and you break it down throughout the week. Like, hey, why did you put this guy? No, that's instantaneously in game as the head coach. You can just simply be like,
No.
what are you doing?
Right. Right.
So and so is playing. So and so is playing. That's our order. What are you tinkering with?
Well, and it's even like you look at the busted play on the 95-yard run. You have Jaron Kanik in there. You don't have Kobe McKenzie on the field. You have Boganowski at safety, and
who's hardly played.
And hasn't played much. And I don't know who was out, whether it was RSJ or Peyton. But you have 2 guys who have taken a bunch of snaps, and one of them wasn't on the field. And guess what? It cost you 7 points, like right off the bat.
which is critical in this game.
Yeah.
It's not just any 7
Yeah,
points.
look at the score of where that was at and how that game was trending. It's not going to be some shootout.
Oh
like,
my gosh!
The second it went
you get to
tied,
stop there.
yeah,
and it could be game over.
it was 14-7. When it was 14-7 at half, I was like, all right, like it may stay 14-7, but if they tie the game, it's like no confidence
on the 3-yard line.
No confidence in us. I know, but I'm just saying, like, once it became tied, I'm not confident that we're going to be able to go score points and put this game away. Whereas Navy was finding ways to get down the field. And again, I know they scored 3 touchdowns, but still, I just didn't have. I lost all confidence.
Well, and of all the places when you're trying to stop a triple option to vacate and leave, is straight up the gut.
Yeah.
Like if anything, you want
Can't do that.
to hold your middle. Oh, they're going outside. Now
Force
let's
them to the
all
sideline.
force them to the sideline.
Yeah.
But to part the river, so to speak, and just let him
To
go.
literally run out of his way.
Part the sea.
Yeah.
A battleship, an aircraft carrier could have gone through that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely awful. Well, a lot of doom and gloom, a lot of not just among ourselves, but everybody is just frustrated as could be.
We need to talk about drops also.
Yeah, and so let's stick with the game and those specifics,
Don't
and then
boss me.
let's get into the bigger issues of just where this team is, but also what was realistic in terms of expectations, and maybe we should, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe we should expect to beat Navy.
Well, we should, but we were only a 1-point favorite.
even with if
So
you
let's get
take
to
away
that in
the
a minute.
drops, and they weren't just
Let's talk about the
kind
drops.
of drops.
They're horrible
I
drops.
think Hawkins was like, he would have been like 83% completions for 300 something.
I
It
didn't
would have
think-
been a
We had
good
8 drops
game.
on the day.
for a true freshman who had only played 3 games, I thought he played
Okay,
pretty
he played
well.
better,
He
of course.
went 28 of 43, and 7 of those 15 incompletions
Yeah.
were drops.
He'd have been,
Yeah.
so he'd have been 36.
And he only had
36
one that he put in danger
Right.
that almost got intercepted, but he threw it to the ground.
Yeah, he would have had 36 completions today. Should have had. For another 120 yards of pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of
But one of them
positives
was
to take away.
45 yards on its own. It just got dropped.
Yeah, I saw positives in a lot
I don't
of
know
his
how we're
play.
having so many drops.
I don't
In this
understand
day
it.
and age of college football in general, I don't feel like I watch any other team that drops passes all game long.
And
It's all the time.
and it's widespread
It's-
across so many
It is
receivers.
like a sickness.
It was almost like, I mean, I know a couple of his, he fired them in there. They were still tight spirals and in the right place. They are catching the receiver right in the hands where the hands should be. You had one time Reagan's goes across the middle, and I felt like he just lazily didn't get his hands up. He got one hand on the
Yeah, it was
ball,
bad.
That's
I
I,
don't-
think he got held.
and he
That
got
was
held.
right on the
Yes,
logo.
he got held.
He
He did get held.
Yeah, he was coming across diagonally, and the defender grabbed him, and I think he maybe pulled his left arm a little bit, and
He
then
still should have gotten
the
two
ball
hands out
came
there.
right behind the ref, and I thought it was going to hit the ref, and Reagan's just got his hand out, and it should have been a flag for pass interference or holding either one, and there was
I
no
agree.
call because all he could do was get his right hand out, but it was
But
also
that was the only throw that wasn't like that. That
Yeah.
was a drop. That wasn't just like, how are you? I mean, I guess the first toss out to Franklin was a little hard. You thought so, Connor. The second one was both were catchable. And I'm going to go back to what
This should
John
be-
Madden
this
used to
should be
say.
caught.
If you can't catch the ball, we'll get somebody else who can. I'm not going to worry about a quarterback who throws the ball too hard. And that can be exaggerated, obviously, especially in a touch pass situation. But those passes should have been caught. And they were critical drops.
they're showing the replay, and that touchdown throw, Hawkins to the second touchdown was a fantastic rolling to his right.
Look at
perfect
Boganowski.
throw.
Look at Oh, where am I going? Oh,
So frustrating and pathetic to give that up in that position.
It's also frustrating and pathetic that we didn't have someone who could run down a white quarterback. With
Well, all they had
whole
was
football
speed.
field.
They do have speed, but
I'm not saying he's not fast.
it's so frustrating.
So, I mean, I didn't expect to blow them out. I had us winning 24-14. I thought our defense would play better. They also had two touchdowns that they should have gotten in the first half. The quarterback just overthrew the guy that they were throwing it to.
Those routes were crazy stupid. I just watched the 2-point conversion.
So bad.
Those routes were just so indicative of what we've done all year.
well, they clogged up
The middle.
They brought 10 people.
I don't know.
on the
What I
spot.
thought they were going to do, I thought they were going to try to roll Hawkins out to the right and pull and drag
Yeah.
two guys across
Run pass
and try
option.
to find
Just like the
find
score in the
something.
Auburn game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where he dove for it. That's what I thought it was going to be too.
Just go with what works.
But also,
there was
do
so
you-
much of
Do you
going
question
away
the
from what was
2-point try at all because we had already not converted 2 4th and 1s?
I don't. I think it's the right call.
Here's my
I like
my
it.
only thing, and I'm a big proponent of going for two to go and win a football game.
On the road, I like it.
But the only thing I will push back on my own thought process there is you're going up against Navy. We've shown to be a much better defense with regardless of how much field is in front of Navy's offense. I feel like our defense could have gotten a hold or two to give us a chance.
And their kicker was suspect.
Their kicker was suspect.
Our kicker's suspect.
Well, that was a long. It was 51 yards.
Our
It was,
kicker's
but
suspect.
regardless, I think it's I was screaming to go for two at home. I'll stand by wanting to go for two, but I also wouldn't have been livid if we would have taken it to OT.
I
Because
hated it.
think we would have been fine.
I absolutely hated going for 2.
Yeah.
I was
Because
fine either way.
I just hate it because it's what lesser teams do.
We were the lesser team.
We're not the lesser team.
We are.
We are the lesser.
No, we're not.
Their record's better than ours. They
There's not
beat
a
us
player
field.
on the
So-
field. There's
So
again, this goes accumulation of everything. We're a vastly more talented football team than they are. This is OU and this is Navy.
we are more talented, but we are not a better put together
You take it-
unit.
I
than they
think
are.
the
I'm not a
longer,
coach, I can tell you that.
like Connor was just saying, I think you tie it up, you go into overtime, you let your talent try and win the football game.
Well, Newberry, he went to school with me. We went to high school together. So I won't say anything critical about him. I do think I'm not going to say we're not better coached than them, but
I will.
Well, I don't think we're better coached, but there's more talent on the football
there is
field.
more talent.
And the longer you have two talents going against each other,
The problem
the
is
better talent
we were showing
should come out on top.
outside of that last drive, we struggled to get the ball into scoring position.
They did too, for the most part.
I don't know. With a run game, it just feels like I don't know. I liked the call at the time, and I stand by it. I'm not as committed to it, and wasn't at the time as I would be in other situations where it's so blatantly obvious you should go for two. And in a lot of those cases, teams and coaches don't. But I do think I give it a 60-40. I like the call, don't like the call.
I mean, the first touchdown they scored after a 4th-and-1 stop on our own 40, right? So they had a super short field. The second touchdown was just a freak, terrible coverage, busted coverage for 95-yard touchdown. Other than that, they really didn't move the ball down the field at all except the missed field goal. But that was on a fumble,
And they
on
missed
our
some
40-yard
throws.
line or whatever.
He missed some throws.
He did miss some throws, but I don't think if you go to overtime, you have a better chance of winning to me because you've proven that Navy really can't move the ball.
Here's the other thing that I think weighs towards go for two. Who cares about this game more? And as it gets into the depths of it and depths of overtime, I think you have a better chance that we check out before they do.
I think Brent just wanted to go home.
I don't
I
think he
think
wanted to
that's
go
why I
home.
went
I
for
think he felt like it was the right time. And
No,
right
but
thing
you
to
also
do.
have all the momentum. You just had a last-minute drive down the field to tie it.
But honestly, then that says go for two, because you've got it all going and you're rolling, punch it in
Already get
versus
stuffed on 4th and
reset.
multiple times.
It was a horrible play call.
It was a horrible.
Like I think if you're gonna go for two, you don't take it. Like I mean, it's
I think you put two running backs in the backfield, and you just run it, and you have Robinson block for Sawchuk or Tatum, whoever that you decide to hand the ball off to. Because I think I only remember one time during the game we ran it for like 7 or 9 yards. That Robinson and Tatum were both back there, and literally Robinson was the lead blocker,
Nick Blue's guy.
and they
Well,
went
there were
right,
several
and he
plays-
destroyed the guy that he blocked.
There were several plays that we were trying to beat Navy at their own game, which
The 4th and
I
1.
thought was ridiculous.
Yeah, why would you do that?
They've seen
Yeah,
this
They see that all the
10
time.
trillion times.
Yeah, why would you
Yeah.
do that? I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Why are you running a Navy?
There was
play?
no fooling what
And you're not giving Robinson a chance to get any forward momentum because
Right.
it was a weird, like he went in motion and came back on like a counter play. It
Well,
was
and
terrible.
the other one where Hawkins got stopped, you could see Brent on the sideline afterwards with Hawkins yelling at him to be faster. Hawkins was like taking a drop step.
Yeah.
When he catches snap,
Right.
take a drop step and then try to run. It's like, and then he
did
did it again.
anybody
He
not
did it
think
later
that
in
it
the
was
game, and he
quarterback
just
draw?
Huh?
Did that fool anybody
No.
that's ever watched any football on the
There
planet?
were people not watching the game who, out of just in their living room, turned to their wife and said quarterback draw.
Yeah.
I didn't know why they did it. Everyone knew it was a quarterback draw.
Everybody.
It was. So I'll go back to the 2-point conversion, and I'll say this. Like I say, it's 60-40, and reasonable minds will disagree and can go the other way. It doesn't matter. It's a 2-point conversion against Navy. It really just doesn't matter. It's not going to be the indictment one way or the other. Had they converted successfully, if they were to go
The
kick the
difference
extra
in a winning and
point
losing
go,
season.
yeah, and it doesn't matter. Who cares? It's
See,
a 6-6 season.
before the game,
Everything sucks. So this one thing, I'm just not going to get that
but
concerned.
leading up to the game, I really felt like I didn't care if we won or lost. But after the loss,
Oh, I totally agree.
it's really shaking things up.
So
For me.
yeah, you guys were pretty shaken up. You, especially Lucas, were very
Yeah.
shaken up by it. And
I don't think Brent's the guy.
I want to say, I don't think you can take from an OU Navy military industrial complex bowl game why in the hell it's a make or break for Brent. How is he in any different position in our minds than he was going into this?
I think just because
I mean,
how it looked.
It's additional evidence, but
But
it's so
it's-
little
but
compared
it was-
to everything else we've
It's
done.
It was
additional evidence
3
to
more
how bad the
weeks.
position coaches have done in identifying players that can play.
Yeah, but
All of it.
When you're starting Sawchuk
It
and
confirms what we
Franklin
knew.
over Robinson, when Ivan Carrion looks like he can actually play sports, and
Sure.
he hasn't barely stepped on the field the entire season.
right.
That
Had 1/40th the
when you're down
snaps
your
that
fifth wide receiver,
Reagan's had.
your top 5 wide receivers are down, and Reagan's has got 450 snaps or whatever the hell you end up with this season,
were
and you've got
7
Carrion out there
catches for
not
400
doing
snaps.
anything on the sideline. It makes no sense.
To me, it confirms what's already been confirmed. is my point.
He's made bad hires
Yes, and we
over and over.
know that, and this didn't give us any new information. It just reconfirmed what we already knew.
Yeah, and I think what my hope is that he just took a hands off with the offense. It's like, it is what it is, and go do it. And it's gonna be completely different next year. I'm hoping. This is my optimism.
I have the same.
I 1000% think the offense will
But-
be immensely better.
I would think but I am there is a lot that's gonna have to change, and there's gonna have to be a lot of early leadership and direction from Arbuckle to change it. Like,
Well, so I got two things on that.
yeah, I think everyone is holistically correct. Like, the offensive staff currently does not know how to manage personnel.
Well, I got two things on that. One is in agreement with what you guys are saying. This is new, additional, extra information to tell us what are we doing with these existing coaches and should they still be on staff, right? And it's more of a concern point of if the existing staff is in place come August, what's going on around here, right? If Joe John is still on staff, what's going on around here? Perhaps if DeMarco's still on staff, what's going on around here? Now, the other would be some hope that they can't do anything to really shake things up at this point. And this gave us, just like a lot of things, like the LSU game, one more reason to be confirmed of, oh, you're right, these guys got to go. Don't fall for the flash in the pan fool's gold that was the Alabama game. These guys got to go. We need to, and things need to change. And so if Arbuckle needed to see it up front and personal, he did, hopefully.
And I know this isn't singular to OU, but we obviously don't pay as close attention to all the other teams around the country. But man, it feels like we're really between a rock and a hard place where we're keeping coaches that aren't good enough because we can't afford to lose players. I really feel that way.
Huh.
We've
I
become
don't know if I
very.
feel that way, but that's a worry. That's a good legitimate
I
worry.
think that's why Bill Beanbo's back. That's just my opinion.
Well, that's no.
You had to get the high school recruits.
Yeah.
You got to give him more chances.
Yeah.
I'm okay with giving Bill some more chances.
Sure.
He's the last one though that gets the chances.
Right.
Like, I think you could get anybody to coach up Xavier Robinson, Barnes, Tatum,
Where were we?
anybody for next year. The
Oh,
problem is I don't know if those players are still here. And that's what's I honestly think that's one of the things that Brent is going through right now.
So do you think? So that's a.
But it makes no sense for keeping Joe John because there's
Right.
nobody for him to lose.
So is that a defensive Brent's position a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's also we shouldn't be in that kind of spot
Mhm.
in general.
No, and you're in this weird spot.
I feel like DeMarco's guys, or maybe some of the coaches, have strictly come in a way for their position coaches, and maybe it's always been this way. Maybe some players come for the university, some players come for the head coach, some players come for it's where their mom wanted them to go, and some, for whatever reason, playing time or something else. But I feel like if DeMarco left, I think Xavier Robinson would still be here because he's an Oklahoma kid. Tatum hopefully would still be here because of baseball. But like I think a Barnes and a Sawchuck and maybe even like Blaylock. I don't know if Blaylock's an OU guy or a DeMarco Murray guy.
Well, and it's like you saw, like with
and the way kids can leave, that's just something that is new for everybody.
Well, then go ahead, Connor. I got.
I mean, it's like you saw the hemorrhaging of offensive players when Lincoln left. Like those guys are coming for Lincoln and coming for one or two other guys, and they don't want to be with him. And again, that's an extreme circumstance.
Right, that's
head
Lincoln.
coach,
Well,
but
it's also Lincoln Riley.
and it's also Lincoln Riley, exactly. But I mean,
which is why you don't see it on defense, I think.
Yeah.
I think these defenders are playing in a Brent Venables defense, and I think they know that.
Well, then, so what I want to say is,
So you've got to have
then
we got to start having players
if
that
that's true,
want to be in an
who
Arbuckle
cares?
offense.
Because I don't, not to be derogatory to any of those players that you mentioned, but they're all very replaceable players. You go around the country, very replaceable players.
They
You
are.
can find players that play those positions, especially those positions.
They are,
If you want to replace people,
unless
receiver and running back are replaceable positions.
unless it's your ass on the line, and this is your last.
Now
chance.
that could be, yeah. Now you
That's-
might have that weird pressure,
Yes.
and that's bad.
If
And
this
that's a
was
bad
year
situation.
2 and you were like, man, this just isn't cutting it, I cut ties, fine. You have to keep every good player that at least knows somewhat of the system, the team, and the
Right.
because your ass is completely on the line.
But your ability to keep them,
Like you'll be fired by the Texas
I would be
game.
surprised if
if
your
it doesn't
ability to
go
keep
right.
them is dependent on a DeMarco Murray, especially in the
Well, I
era
think that's
now
the
of
pro-
NIL.
But it's kind of a pro and con of having a DeMarco, I think,
Do you think he's that attractive
as a recruiter,
as
yeah.
a recruit?
Because
Well,
I
that's a
think
problem.
because I think as a high school player, DeMarco Murray coming to recruit you, one, you probably know who he is. Two, he's done it both in college and in the pros. So you're just gonna assume this guy is gonna coach me.
Well, if they were smart, they go look at his.
But I mean, there's no
Right.
players.
there's no other assumption to think that he wouldn't know how to teach me to do what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Except that he only has one guy in the pros. One true to
No, I think that'll start hindering him, yes.
Yeah.
Moving
I mean,
forward.
the sample is
But
there.
that takes a little bit of time
Yeah.
to catch up to a
But
coach.
it's
So
there-
could
it's
this
there.
be the one year where this you keep those guys to keep the ship together, and then you are in a conversation with Arbuckle of, all right, what do we need to do to get to the next
Yeah,
step?
same. I think it might be too much to put on that young of an offensive coordinator who doesn't have enough connections to go get people, probably,
Right.
and the right people,
Right.
or the people that you can sell to the
Sure.
OU brass of, hey, I'm going to bring this running back coach with me, and they're like, we have DeMarco Murray. Like, you're bringing who?
Yeah,
Well,
but it's
surely
they're
they're
at the same
rational
time,
enough
it's
at this point
still
to like look.
OU.
Yeah,
Like it's still OU.
they need to look at
coming
it very
right?
professionally.
And it's not just Arbuckle who's going and seeking these guys out. Like Brent has connections, Beatonbow has connections. Like the network is there. I think if we wanted it, I think we could go have a relative good lot of guys to choose from.
Well, I don't know if that's even what he's saying, but yeah, I think both things. Like we should have a lot that to choose from, and we're sophisticated enough. We should know what we're looking for,
Right.
and not be afraid to go find the right guy. And
We probably should. I don't know that that's in place.
maybe that's.
And I don't know that our
and you
network,
allude to a money issue,
and
it
I don't
could be
know
a
that our
money issue.
network is broad enough because all these guys are a little too in the same circle.
Incestuous.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a concern.
It is concerning.
It's been a concern. It's the concern Lucas brings up
But
about
that's what's good about
his
Arbuckle.
hires. He's totally outside of the
Yes.
realm. That's very exciting from that standpoint. And I'm excited by the fact that he isn't the sensational coach that would be the easy hire. He's a little bit of a tough hire, which gives me hope. He's 29, he's not 40, and has run through a string of great success, and everybody's like, well, you're just kind of gap filling by getting the best guy you can get, but it isn't necessarily going to work. And you made the obvious choice. He went and got a guy that was kind of not completely obvious. Now, all that said, if it was a money issue among other things, maybe you got the best guy you could get, and that's kind of scary. So I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen what he can produce and where he can get this offense to be. And Brent's job is on the line for him to do it. He's got to get us to what? What do you think we have to be? A top 50 offense? A top 75 offense?
I will be absolutely floored if we're not a top 40 offense.
I would agree.
Floored.
And I think we'll be and
You
if
have
I'm betting
You
on
have
Brent's
you have
future,
one of the hottest offensive coordinators
Right.
around. You have
his quarterback.
his quarterback. We're not teaching somebody the system, and that particular quarterback has the third best preseason Heisman odds. Now, does that mean anything in the grand scheme? No, but it means
No,
a little.
It does. No,
It means a little.
It does mean a lot.
So, and
You'll be floored. if we're
Floored.
not floored.
yes, yes.
I will not be floored.
Make a prediction of where you think we'll be in general.
The thing is, it's not that big of a gap. It's
55 to 60.
it's big. It's
So-
big, but
So
it's not.
which gets us to probably
You don't think John Mateer?
7-5,
You don't
and
think
then Brent should be gone.
you don't
No.
think, but you don't think Mateer and Arbuckle are as good as Gabriel and Levy?
Don't know. I've only seen him play horrible competition for one season.
Well, who did Dylan Gabriel go against?
Competition.
Pretty weak competition.
And he came out and went 6-7.
Yeah, but
I'll
it was,
say I
but that
bet
wasn't
I
their
bet
fault.
we're in the 30s. I bet we're in the 30s.
Man, that's some pie
Yeah,
in the sky shit right there, fellas.
I would
What did we
say
finish this year?
so.
120.
120s. That's what I thought. I'm not saying like we have a lot of.
So
tournaments.
I
And
think,
it's horrible, but it's not this massive gap either.
mm-mm.
I think
No, it's not.
you think 120 to 40 is like 200 yards a game or something. No, it's probably like 70 yards a game.
Yeah, it's not. It's not much.
And one more touchdown. I mean, if you don't think Mateer and Arbuckle are worth one touchdown and 70 more yards
So I'll look
over
at it this
Jackson
way, and
Arnold.
I don't think this is crazy optimism. I think we're going to be somewhere around the realm of what you guys are talking about, 40 to 30. Like I like a 40 plus or minus 10, or a 30 plus 5 or minus 5 plus 10, if you know what I mean, because it's harder to get better and better. And in any of those realms, I think we're 9-3 and pushing playoffs, like easy.
I mean,
like
I think-
not a
And I'm
chance. Like, it's easy.
and I'm factoring in our league.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. I am too, and our schedule. And I'm saying it's not hard.
You've got to be top 15
Look how close we
offense. You've got to be top 15 offense, and if you go 8-4, I mean, there are questions here. You cannot go
No,
worse than 8-4.
no. And if our defense is where we think our defense is going to be, if we were top 50, if we were number 50 this year, we're pushing playoffs. I mean, look at the 4 games that we lost that were very.
Well, yeah, it's
winnable.
probably a touchdown.
Yeah.
There's probably 7 to 10 points.
And people will
in
listen.
several games where
People will listen,
wouldn't even be
Lucas
close.
included, and think that's crazy. It's not crazy.
Yeah, I'm listening right now thinking you're all idiots.
It's not crazy.
You think
at all.
7 more points a game is crazy? With
I
an
don't think that's the
experienced
difference between
offense?
120 and 50.
Yeah. Well, we'll just look.
Go ahead.
look at points per game and look at yards per game.
All right, talk amongst yourselves.
I like.
And,
I
to
think-
think for y'all to think, I mean, I think the defense will be good. I don't know that it won't step down a little bit because you're literally losing a guy that was a Butkus semifinalist.
I can see it stepping down.
You're losing Billy had a down year, but previous years he's been really good. You're losing Ethan Downs, who's probably been our best pass rusher in the last couple of years. Trace Ford, yeah, no big loss there. But unless Gentry's coming back, and it's going to be old Gentry, which we only got to see 6 games maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like he hasn't played that much football for us.
Haven't played in the SEC at all.
He hasn't played in the SEC at all. I could easily see this defense dropping 10 or 15 spots from this year to next year.
Okay, but you don't. What, you think we're going to be 90th in
And
offense?
if the offense goes from 120 to 60, that's not 3 more wins. You're
Oh,
all crazy if you think
last
9 and
year it
3 is
was.
what's happening.
Last year it was. We win Missouri. We're
This year.
this year. So give me between Ole Miss, South Carolina, and
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
3 losses still.
No way. No way. If we're functional, we beat Tennessee. If we're functional, we don't give up what we gave up to South Carolina.
All right,
It's a
here's the
ball
number.
game.
Here's the numbers. We were 121. I don't think it's counting balls. So that's 322.
Yards,
322
yards
per
per game.
322 per game. What number do you want? What did I say?
You said
40?
40.
40? 40 was Cincinnati at 420.
So what was the other one?
98 yards.
So 100 yards.
Yeah.
We're going to be 100 yards a game consistently better.
You don't think John Mateer is significantly better than Jackson Arnold, and you don't think Arbuckle's better than Joe John Finley and Seth Luttrell?
That sounds
don't-
very doable. to me.
100 yards sounds extremely doable,
100?
especially if you look at
How-
statistics with where we've been at in yardage in
Yeah.
the past.
Our effing quarterback threw for 12 touchdowns or something.
What is the number 10 offense on yards per game?
Number 10 is 455.
Is that Ole Miss? Who is it?
That is Louisville.
455 compared to 420.
We were
So
321.
you see how it plateaus. It is such a big leap that you can make. Like you don't have to do much.
I know how stats work.
You don't
Believe it
have
or
to
not.
do
All right,
much
let's go scoring.
to jump. As you're looking the scoring up, you don't have to do much to jump because that's just a couple of drives that got killed. to add 50 yards here and 50 yards there, and all of a sudden you're at that point. That's how bad our offense was this year. It's low hanging fruit.
Wow, we were 95th in scoring. So we actually scored more points
But
than we
that's
should
not
have.
offensive scoring. That's total scoring.
So we're at 24.3.
Okay.
And to be 40th, we have to get to 31.9. So a touchdown.
A touchdown.
So 100 yards extra and a touchdown.
To be top 40.
Which makes a lot of sense, right? It's one more trip down the field. It's a touchdown. That's doable, right?
And then from 40 is 31.9 to top 10 would be
37.
36.
36. Yeah.
So 12 more points a game to get to top 10 scoring team in the country.
So that's overall scoring. How many defensive touchdowns do we have this year?
This is just offense.
We had a few.
We had a few.
We probably
Yeah, early this season we did. We
4 or 5.
had 2 kip sixes.
2 kip sixes.
We had one that, yeah, without that, we lost a game.
A scoop and score at Missouri.
Auburn.
No, I look at this from a standpoint of if you think, not necessarily, just if you think, if the truth is that Brent Venables is not the guy for the job, I've got unfortunate news for you. He's going to be back after next year because he's done enough to keep his job with what he's brought in. My fear would be he's not the right guy for the job, and he's going to keep his job because he's going to do enough to improve enough that there's no way they're getting rid of the guy.
Yeah.
It's going to take something colossally
I don't
bad.
think he's the guy. I've seen too many mismanaged games this season. I mean, last year we went 10-2. We could have very easily gone 12-0 last year. I'm not going to pin both those losses on him. There are definitely things that we talked about would have done differently. But between the first season and this season, have 2 6 and 7 seasons. I know he had a complete defensive rebuild. The first,
Which has worked.
which has worked. Do we know where we finished this year in defense? I don't know what metric you want
It
to
is
use.
not as good as we are. It's not very high.
Well,
If
defensively,
you factor in the number of
If
snaps
you
we were
factor
Well, the
in
problem is your offense gave the ball away
exactly,
so
if
many
you
times.
factor, if you were to
You can't
adjust
go
it
off
for the
scoring.
offense and the strength of schedule, you got to take that number. Whatever you're about to do, it's going to be in half. It was only like 40th and 35th or something.
I
I'm
mean,
guessing.
you could say we were a top 25 defense. I wouldn't say top
Easily.
10.
No,
so
But top-
yards per play is usually a better metric than total yards.
Okay.
I agree.
54th, but really the difference is like 0.1 or 0.2
No, it's not much.
from moving up to
And if you adjust for, like I said,
20th.
strength of schedule and offense,
defensively, it's really tight when you're looking at yards per play to move up to being like a top 20 defense. Oh no, hold on, that was
what
wrong.
has to be.
Hold on, that was my bad. It switched back. That's not right. It switched. We were 16th. Never mind.
In point yards per
Play. I was on 2023. It
So
switched back.
We might have
I'll
been a
take
top
that.
10
I'll
defense.
take that all day, every day.
I think we might be a top 10 defense then.
Well, he's on yards per play.
Yards
No.
per
If you adjust for who read off the top 15.
But it doesn't matter where you're turning the ball over and stuff. The yards per
Yes,
play
it
is,
does matter.
is overall.
yeah.
It matters because of what type of defense you're going to call, what position you are in the game. Like, it matters.
So yards per play. Let me just tell you some of the names we're ahead of: Alabama, Oregon, Michigan. Those are the ones closest to us that we're ahead of.
Read those above us that are doing better
The
than
big teams ahead of us
no,
that I would
all
say
of them.
count.
No, all of them.
Okay, Sam Houston State,
Yeah, exactly.
Miami, Duke, South Carolina is 11th, SMU was 9th, Tennessee was 7th, Penn State 6th, Notre Dame 5, Mississippi 4, Indiana 3, Texas 2, Ohio
There's
State
two
1.
types of teams in
But
that.
we're
Those are all
basically
playoff
playoff teams.
They're either playoff teams or nobodies.
Yeah.
Who played nobody.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, they're all basically playoff teams, or in our range of yards per play.
And
Ahead of us.
we were damn good on defense. Like it was not a secret.
We
looked
were so good it saved our
very
ass.
good.
It saved us from being 4-8
Yeah.
or something
And I
pathetic.
mean, we said it 100 times, like how much the script is flipped, where this has now become a massive thank goodness for the defense pod,
Yeah.
as opposed to what it was when we started
If
this.
you want to look
Thank
at
God
games
about the
that
offense. Like,
we could have won that we lost, let's look at games we won that we could have lost.
Yeah.
Houston,
Auburn.
right out of the gate.
Tulane,
Houston.
Well, I said that.
Oh.
Alabama.
I mean, Alabama, even with the fact that we did really well, that's a game. If it's not for your defense, you're losing that game.
Yeah, I mean, the only games that we stood out were against Maine and freaking Temple.
Those Bears,
Legitimate.
those
Like,
those Blueberry Bears, they were so good.
if it wasn't for our defense and basically every other win that we had, like, you're looking at a hopeful 3-9 season.
I mean, the offense lost the Missouri game.
Right,
Flat out.
flat out lost it.
Yeah.
As lost as you can get.
Yeah.
And I mean,
They
like-
flat out lost
Well,
South
just
Carolina.
like
They
Auburn,
flat out
They
lost
flat out
it.
lost Tennessee.
they flat out lost the game today.
Yeah.
They
Like,
lost Tennessee.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lost
So I
today.
mean, it's such a it sucks. This year sucked so bad.
The
It's
way the defense was
disgusting.
playing in the first half against Tennessee, you don't have 3 Jackson Arnold mistakes and where they took place. I don't know how you say we don't have a chance to win that football. The defense gives Arbuckle and Mateer the ball at the 6-yard line for Tennessee. It's probably a touchdown.
Mhm.
Again at the 35,
It's at least points.
maybe 3.
Yeah,
You're
it's at
not
least
throwing
points.
a backwards lateral that's not even part of the play at all at your own 50. I mean, it's just you can't even.
Well, here's a hot take. We're going to be so vastly different.
And you're not down 21
The
nothing.
level of functionality you're about to see in this coming season is going to blow your mind if your only perspective is how bad we've been in the year 20.
Yes, if this was your first year of watching football as an OU football fan, next year is going to look like something you've never ever seen in your life. It will blow you away.
It'll blow your mind.
For
Guys
us,
who block.
it's going. I don't think we realize how bad the offense was this year.
Right.
I don't know.
No, like
No,
I think we
I
know
agree.
it's bad. I don't think we know how bad the offense was this year. It was completely and utterly, historically inept.
So inept.
Historically.
I mean, I'm watching these other bowl games and I'm seeing all these other teams who put together functional stuff. And it's mind blowing. It's like we're a transplant group of people who have never played the game of football before.
Well,
and all of a sudden you just said, go do this thing.
Yeah, simple throw and catch is not a thing. That's
Yeah,
what
they can't
blows
do
my
it.
mind. It's like something we haven't seen all year is some crazy and we've seen flashes of it, but just the consistent balls thrown downfield where a receiver's running in stride to catch a ball and then running with the ball afterwards. Like it just
Have
didn't
we even
didn't
had any yak on the whole year? Like
No.
at all?
The
No.
touchdown today, the Hawkins threw.
Yeah.
There was a perfect throw. The guy draped on him a little bit. He pulled away from him and went and scored.
Yeah, but it's also a play that doesn't happen in the SEC. Hawkins scrambles all the way to his left, plays high school ball, and scrambles all the way back to his right, and then hits a perfect pass.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen against Ole Miss.
I think it's gonna be interesting looking back. I mean, so next year obviously a defining year, but I mean to reflect and just think again how much the Seth Luttrell hire put us in a hole. And again, injuries aside, injuries happened. That's noted. I still think we can probably all agree that even with Luttrell running the offense with a mostly healthy crew, it's not much better than what we saw.
No, I think that's actually
And I think it's a really detrimental.
in the multiverse that those poor bastards doing the 2 homers and a realist podcast have no idea how bad the world is going to be for them because Seth Luttrell's kept his job in that year, and yet it's with the health. But
And it's not
at
gonna
least
get
one
better.
of them, the Lucas in that group, is saying, "Guys, I'm telling you, this is awful, and we're not going to win."
Do you guys
And
recall what
and we're
some
all
of the
saying it's
names
gonna
were
happen.
last year for OC?
Recall what?
Any of the names? I don't either.
Not a one.
Should go back and listen.
Yeah,
We should have been
research
screaming Chip Kelly's name from the top of the damn mountain.
Absolutely. Which is back to Lucas's point that Brent Venables hires are very suspect.
I think next year, after the end of the season, if we go 7-5 and worse, this becomes the realist pod.
Oh,
And you guys sit it out. And it's just me trash talking this shit team.
We try
And
to
if we go 9-3, I sit out the next season.
No,
and you
I
guys can just blow sunshine, crimson rainbows up everybody's butt about how great of a team we're going to be.
I don't know.
If we're going to make the
No,
playoffs.
I don't
and play
know
for
that-
national championship.
I'm not
Brent
saying the
I didn't say
the
we're gonna
way
play
the
for a national
offense
championship.
is going to look
I said we're
next
gonna make the
year
playoff.
is going to
That
translate.
in turn is playing for national championship.
I don't know if the offense next year translates to 10 wins, but it's going to look significantly better than it did this year.
We said the same thing after a 10-2 season with Jeff Levy and Bill Gates. We said that we probably can go back and listen to that
And
pod,
it should
No,
have been.
and we can say those exact
it
same
should have
words.
been.
Jackson Arnold has so much more talent than Dylan Gabriel. We're going to get an offensive coordinator in here that's going to be so much better than Jet Levy and his stupid sweeps.
Okay,
And I did say Jet Levy on
Yeah,
purpose.
I know.
And
Yeah, you had to explain it.
well,
You ruined it.
I want to make sure everybody caught that. And we said the exact same thing in the post-game pod after the Arizona game. Jackson Arnold threw 400 yards. Yeah, he made some freshman mistakes, but look at his talent.
Well,
He
that
can
looked
throw the
good.
ball
And he
down.
was talented.
It
He
was.
great.
Wait a second. Are you saying
Stop.
He had an entire
happened.
season of being terrible.
But what happened? None of us will ever know what happened.
are you saying that Brent Venables ruined Seth Luttrell?
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Because I don't think that's the case. I think that Brent Venables made a bad decision and Seth Luttrell ruined the 2024 season, including ruining a quarterback for OU at least in Jackson Arnold. And I don't think anything that we said about Jackson Arnold wasn't reasonable. It just collapsed because he got coached.
And we'll get to find out.
Yeah, we need
at
to
home.
find out.
Yeah, when he
On
comes in
Owen
and puts
Field.
up 40 against us.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and I mean, it's just
Did you see the receiver they brought in?
yeah.
They got the number one.
Oh, the
receiver.
Georgia Tech kid.
They're stacked.
Yeah.
Like they actually have some pretty good talent over there. Jackson's gonna have a lot of people to
They already had great receivers too.
And Hugh Freeze was paying people very well when he was at where was he at before? Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And so now I mean, if he can get Auburn to unlock this budget that they've just bought Jackson Arnold and the best wide receiver. in the
Well, if
world,
there's one thing that's
who knows
known,
what they're going to do next?
it's that Alabama and teams from Alabama have lots of money, right? Yeah. I'm
You know, I
not
saw-
worried about Auburn.
You know what was wild? So the top 10 high school players in the state of Alabama this year, eight of them went to Auburn.
Yeah.
8. That's shocking.
They've got. I mean, it is,
And the other two didn't
it
go to
is-
Bama.
It is a Hugh
Yeah.
Freeze program.
The other two didn't go to Bama either.
It is a Hugh Freeze program.
The top 10 players in the state of Alabama,
Wow.
none of them went to Bama.
There's a lot of hookers in Auburn.
So- If you're an Alabama fan, should you be concerned?
Oh, I bet Alabama fans are very
I
concerned.
think you should be. Yeah.
Alabama may actually be. They might have passed their peak.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that
No,
They
but
just
I
lost
mean,
the
like,
greatest coach of all
But I
time.
think it might
Imagine.
be like in a
Bad.
relatively significant.
like as bad as where they were when they were in the woods.
As bad as what we're going through right now.
They're so bad. They just lost to a horrible 6-17
Yeah.
by 18 points.
Yeah.
That's how bad
That
Alabama
is
is.
not false. And back to the discussion a moment ago,
That's very true.
I'll be the first one to eat words on expectations and maybe being a little bit too quick to.
You won't get to eat those words because you won't be on the podcast.
judge-
Because it will be the real.
No, all four of us on Jackson, We're all wrong on. We were all.
Oh, password. It's not next year.
It was all incomplete on Jackson.
If I could have Dylan Gabriel this year, knowing what I know, obviously I'm saying yes, please, Dylan Gabriel and Jeff. Like I want them both.
Gabriel would have had a concussion after game 4.
He-
That's the thing. Gabriel would have overcame Seth Luttrell's
He would have overcome
and the
offensive
injuries issues.
No,
issues.
that's why
Better?
I'm thinking
Better?
I want
Right.
But I don't know that. I don't know that.
I mean, we might be
Maybe you get
7-5?
2 more wins, maybe.
Maybe 8. We
Yeah.
might have got to 8. Yeah.
I would
If he stayed healthy the whole season.
after this season. I
yeah,
take it.
big in.
Yeah,
heartbeat.
Big in.
Yeah, we would.
And then, but I mean, yeah, that I will take what I went through this year with the hopes of Arbuckle going into next year, because I think Arbuckle will be more productive than what Levy or Luttrell obviously would have ever been here.
I think we might have underestimated, or we did underestimate, obviously one bowl game performance, which they were probably running Levy's plays, right? I don't think he reinvented the wheel for the
Right.
Arizona.
They
game.
were running Levy's plays.
Yes,
That was
And number two, someone that had been a successful OC, but it had been 5-6 years.
I still think that is a nominal part of why they hired him. I think they hired him because it was easy.
I do
And
too.
they didn't have to put any work into going in this coaching search. Like
No,
we didn't get
he
any
said-
word of hiring anyone else. I know he said he interviewed people.
Yeah.
But I am saying that's bullshit. Like maybe you make a phone call or two. Don't tell me you went through this list and said this is our guy. There's no way.
It's actually
I don't
maybe
think
worse
anybody-
if he did.
I don't think
It is.
anybody of
It's much worse
name
if he actually
wanted
did.
to come to OU with what is essentially a freshman quarterback,
With a 5-star Gatorade Player of the Year quarterback.
with a freshman quarterback going into the SEC. I don't think anybody with a brain wanted to take that job.
You're crazy. You're not taking it for the play. You're taking it because it's OU. Like you take it because you can you can put OU as a stamp on your resume.
I bet there's a lot of guys who would have taken
And
that job.
also, I
Doesn't
really
sound
think
like it.
I really think it's back to what you guys were saying earlier, Jay, is we're keeping coaches to keep players. Keeping the trail to keep Jackson. Mistake.
Yeah, I think Jackson.
It was Dan Mullen that he talked to last year.
Well, and
We did.
apparently Dan Mullen
That was one of the ones he talked about.
So
Because he said
I think he's a
they had
known idiot,
conversations
right?
before
Yeah,
the draft.
Yeah.
yes.
I just think that
I'm over it all, guys.
I think
I'm
that
sick of it.
I think
sick
we're
of
all
losing.
sick
Well,
of it.
good thing you
I
get a
think
few
we're all
months
sick of
off.
it.
I'm sick of
I mean,
losing.
I think we're all sick of it.
I think the worry is that, or the hope, is that we know he made bad decisions.
Can he get
Venables. Will he get better? Has he gotten better? Has he figured out he's got to take an active role? And maybe, okay, to be charitable, maybe it was so bad, it was you're in a firefight and you've just got to make decisions about what you do. It's triage. I'm gonna fix the defense. I'm gonna move over here. You can't make everything where you wanted it to be. And they had to learn a lot. And no doubt about it, they're learning. They're learning NIL. And they're better at it today than they were 2 years ago. And they're better at it today than they were a year ago. Hopefully they're good enough at it to compete at the level they're supposed to compete. Hopefully his hires are now good enough. And every player he's got is good enough to get us to where we need to be, to then get to where we need to be. That's the big worry, is that he can't
Yeah, and
make that jump.
I think like it's not just his job, but and I'm gonna be a little exaggerated here, so bear with me. But I think the state of the program is on a razor thin edge at this point. Like it's gonna next year it's
I think
going
you're right.
next year it's going to tip one way or another. And I think it tips in a positive way if you can go with a productive 8-4 and being we talked about it a few pods ago or a couple months ago.
A
Being
competitive
in the losses that you're in, and you're losing to
and
teams that you
everything
should
looking
lose
like
to.
it like
but-
it should look. You didn't lose because of your incompetency of in-game management.
If you go 6-6 or 7-5 or God forbid worse than that, you're at a point where now like players aren't going to look at you to come here.
You're on the razor's
Regardless
edge.
of what you're
I'm
doing.
just a year early. This was the razor's edge.
So you think we're
Really?
done?
I think we've tipped the other direction.
So you think we're Nebraska or worse?
Yeah, I think we could be.
So like that's
If
the
this
worry.
was, we talked about this earlier. If this was a Big 12 team, we'd probably go 10-2 this year. Even as much as we struggle against a Houston and a Tulane, I think we probably righted the ship midway through. We lost to Texas. We maybe lost to, whoever was on the schedule. I don't know, maybe Colorado or Utah or something. I don't know. Well, probably not Utah.
K-State or Arizona State.
K-State.
maybe.
Depending on who was on our schedule, we go 10-2, 9-3. But I think going into the SEC and being such a program in flux with Brent, being a first-time head coach, obviously he had 2 years under his belt going into this year. But when the injuries started piling up and the game management never got better, I think it tipped it on the downside to me that I don't think we're recovering anytime soon.
Well, we may never
Without a
recover
coaching
then.
change.
We may never recover then.
Yeah, that would be
Without a
Because
coaching change.
you could
we're in
probably
trouble.
kiss our program goodbye at that point.
Like we're gonna lock
Very
in
long
at an Auburn level.
Yeah.
And you're just
Or
not gonna.
worse.
Well, Oregon went down the tubes for a couple of years, and then they brought in Lanning, and
But it's
they've gotten
But it's a
better.
completely
a
different
different world.
But they-
And
But they went first year into the Big
so
Ten,
here's my point.
which
But
isn't
they were riding high.
isn't top to bottom as good as the SEC.
They have unlimited resources.
Here's my point. It's resources. So if you look on paper, who should be good? It should be Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, maybe Florida.
Oregon.
No, not Oregon.
Oregon shouldn't be.
Oregon doesn't have the resources. They've got one guy who is not going to give his entire wealth to that organization.
He seems to have been for 2 decades.
He's going to give a lot, but he's
but
not
they
going
weren't allowed to do what they're doing
right.
now until now.
And he's going to have to give everything he's got, and you got to hope that it continues when Phil Knight is dead. That's trouble because you've got to figure out a way to compete with the guys that have vastly more resources than you.
Well,
And the
you
wealth
look
is
at the
vastly
teams that you're
at those
talking
teams I
about, the
mentioned.
Michigans, the Texas, the teams of that world, and every time around this year, we're seeing them buying players that are going to more than likely make their teams better, and they're throwing the resources at them. They're throwing the money at them. I mean, Michigan going and buying and I say buying in a very loose way, but buying the quarterback just on a whim, saying, I'm going to give you, I don't even remember, it was a huge deal, like $8 million or something like that. Like massive, massive. And again, was it not?
It was
It
$8
was.
million for 2
It
years.
was $8 million, I'm pretty sure. Like
The number
Michigan
one
Watson,
quarterback in the
Underwood,
country.
yeah.
Yep.
A high school kid.
Oh, right, the high school
He
kid.
flipped from LSU.
Do
to
we know
Michigan.
that's true?
I mean,
They were pretty
Dave
public
Portnoy
about it.
came out and publicly said that's what he gave him.
Oh,
Larry Ellis did, and then
I'm with you.
Portnoy kind of
I'm with you. Yeah.
rode the coattails on that.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Oh,
I don't know. It's just like
Well, what we've done.
Greg
the
Gamble.
ramp
Yeah,
up
you don't
is
see
tough.
that? Yeah, Greg Gamble passed away.
I was at the football game all day.
Yeah.
Unlike you guys. I was there supporting Team 130,
Good for you.
the third worst
Proud of you.
OU football team I can remember.
So I worry about that, Connor. I think that's a very legitimate
Fit
worry.
first.
We've worried about it and talked about it here. We've been punching above our weight for 75 years. And it's more acute today than ever because we're in a resources on the top of the table, not under the table type of world. We're going to have to continue to find a way to do that. Now, we're a big program, but you don't have to stay a big program. It doesn't take a lot for you all of a sudden to be, look at where OU basketball is. That's probably where OU football will be. The last
But what
25
about-
years of OU basketball is where OU football should be if you just do the raw math. of
But what
we've
about
got
when it
to
gets
work with.
restructured?
yeah, we're saying when it
Was
gets
full on salary cap.
Yeah.
Every team gets the
But
same.
when
And then it comes down to coaches, evaluation, and
And
player
money.
development.
And money. It's
So
gonna
you're all
always
gonna have
come
the same
down to-
money.
We
No.
won't have the same
You'll
money.
have the same money at the school level, but you won't have the NIL.
I think
level
they're
because
You
trying
won't have
to
it at the
get rid
school
of
level. You won't have it at school. Even if you, I mean, unless you have a salary cap,
That's what we're talking
you're
about.
still not going to have a salary
That's
cap. The Yankees are still a bigger program, a bigger organization.
There's no salary cap.
Then- There's no salary cap in baseball.
No.
There's a
there's
None.
a tax benefit.
there's a, yeah there's
The
well,
Marlins
okay.
spent like
That's a pretty-
26 million, and the Yankees spent 220 million. They beat them in the World Series.
Yeah.
So all right, so football.
Yeah, that's one off.
If football comes to a $20 million salary cap
For
per
every
team,
school.
for every school,
Oh no way.
it
No
still doesn't
chance.
change it because
That's what's supposedly
they
implemented
can
next
still
year.
sign. They can still
I
sign
don't think
deals
it'll be
with
that.
car dealerships and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So you're only curtailing some of it.
You have
You're
to
not
fully.
doing
I mean,
it
if you're going to level it, it's going to have to be a full restructure of what the definition.
Phil
of
Knight
NIL
can
is.
still pay a guy $2 million.
He could pay
and
the
it's
whole
not
team.
part of the salary cap.
He could pay the whole team.
Yeah, he could pay the whole team.
So that's what you're up against. So it's going to always be an issue with resources. So you look at the NFL and the teams that they look at basketball. And the
I
teams that
really
perform
think they're
well.
trying. They're trying.
It's
to keep
never.
it-
It's always
They
going to
won't
be
legally
big
be able to
programs
do that
versus
with the
small.
Supreme Court ruling. Those kids can still sign deals with outside of the school
Yeah.
Make money.
businesses. Dr. Pepper can sign
Well,
one
it's just
guy
like the NFL
to
player.
$2 million.
Even if they do that, I don't think they're going to do
Nope,
that.
the
They're going to
NFL
limit it to 50% of revenue, which we have a bigger program than a lot of other programs, but we're not as big as Texas and we're not as big as Ohio State.
They're doing it. Salary cap is based off of conference TV revenue.
Okay, right. But it's not going to be this mythical level playing field. No sport has a level playing field in resources. None of them do. It's just different degrees of how much they can do and where they can do it. So we're always going to have to punch above our weight because we're Oklahoma. Unless we,
I'm not too worried about that. I still believe. In
I
the-
think we got to worry about
I
that.
still believe in the fact that you can coach up the right guys and be super successful.
You're not going to get the right guys.
I don't think you have to get those guys.
I don't know.
I think you're going to have to be really
I
competitive.
think it's
and do
more.
it.
I think it's actually more and more.
Not counting
prominent.
quarterback.
I think
not
it's
counting,
more and more prominent nowadays that you have to get the right guys to go win games.
I mean, Arizona
Because-
State's doing it.
I mean
they
that's
got
not
a bye.
false until they get their ass beat by
Boise
Texas
got a bye.
next weekend.
Indiana made the playoffs.
We're not.
Okay,
gonna,
we're not. That's not talking about the same thing. Though. Like,
Yeah, right.
Boise State played one team.
We're talking about coaching up. There.
Arizona State played. Yeah, but I mean, so what? They
In a
made
lesser
playoff
league.
in a less conference, in a lesser conference. We could have made the playoff in the Big 12. If you're
But that's
we
what I'm
could've gone
saying is our
10-2.
hindrance is being in this conference.
Right. And I'm not saying right now it is. Right now it is our hindrance for sure.
Except it's also well, it could be our hindrance, and it's also what we had to do. I'm not going to back away from. I think we should have made.
I
The
don't
move.
regret that. I don't
We
regret
had to
the move
make
at
the
all.
move to be in the next level of football. The problem will be where do we rank in the pecking order of the SEC? Can we be one of the top 3 programs in the SEC
It's gotta be
the
top
way
3.
we have always been?
Yeah, it's gotta be
No,
top
I don't.
five.
I don't think that's reasonable. I
To be
think
top
you-
5.
I
in the
think it
SEC?
ebbs and flows.
It
Okay.
might. I don't know.
I think we're past the ages of ebbs and flows. I really am.
Well,
I mean, I'd be fine with the LSU model where
With as much
you
money
go
flowing
8-4 2 years in a row, and then you win a national championship. Then you go 8-4 a couple of years.
That's not a planned model. That's not like a defined model. Like that's just how it worked out.
Mm.
Tell me how that's a model. Hey, I'm gonna get this
I don't know.
guy. We're gonna win some games, and then we're gonna actually go do the
I don't know. They've done the tough job and fired a head coach after a year after winning a national championship twice.
so I'm going to say that
I'm not.
I'm not worried about Alabama. I'm worried about Texas.
Texas is the biggest.
Alabama's not going to find the next Nick Saban and hire him. Alabama and Oklahoma have always historically been neck and neck for one of the best teams in the history of modern college football. That is not necessarily our lot in life for either of us going forward, even though we've got a lot of inertia in our favor and a big program to work off of. My fear, your fear, Connor, is that we get into a situation where we can't any longer, either of us, compete with the Texas programs of the world. That's my big fear.
There's only so many schools to get so many players, and there are more than enough good players to field 25 elite college.
So I guess
You
what we're
can't have them
but
all.
what we're
gotta
disagreeing
get 'em.
about is
You can't have them all. You're gonna get them because
I want to be
But I
one of
want
the
the
top
best.
3.
I
I
want
want
the
to.
best.
I don't want to be every other once in a while we get up there.
it's
and
not every
compete.
once in a while. It's just it's just everyone's gonna go like this.
I don't think everyone's going
Michigan just won the freaking national championship, and they're crap
Yeah,
this
in
year.
the weakest playoff ever.
But Michigan's a big program. Michigan
And they
is the
do
kind
have
of
the- they
program
do
who
have
can
the-
win going forward because they've got.
Michigan fans would have killed for the last 20 years of our success.
No kidding. I know. I
And
don't
they've
disagree.
got more
I'm
resources
saying
than
the
we
last.
do.
That's what I'm saying.
In
The
a
last.
bigger conference.
The
than ours.
last 20 years of our success are probably, perhaps, especially if Connor's fear plays out, something we'll never live up to again. We've seen the best Oklahoma football we'll ever see again. If we can't get this to work.
Because of the league we were in.
Well, yeah, okay, but that is my point.
Yeah.
But it's
I don't think
I don't think
anyone
we'll ever see it again.
I don't think anyone's gonna see it. I don't think anyone's gonna be able to maintain it.
I think
no,
that the
you've got
top
the
teams
you've got the
will
you've
maintain
got
it.
the Oregons of the world and the Ohio States of the world only going and dropping a game a season.
And I think
And
they'll
it's
continue
not
to
good
do it.
enough for them. And they'll hire the wrong guy. And he won't get the right coaches. And they won't develop the players. And then Ohio State fans are gonna be freaking out for 3 years because what the hell's going on? We've
Sure.
won 12 games a year for the last 15 years.
But when was
And
the
now
last,
we're only
but
winning
when was the
9.
last time
We're freaking
Ohio
out.
State went 6-6?
So I don't know what we're disagreeing about, other than I don't think it's going to be some level playing field where anybody can win.
I don't. I think you're gonna go anywhere from 1st to 8th and back to 1st and
No
to
way.
2nd to 6th. And
No
to-
way. No way. The teams that are the best won't ever sniff 8. If they sniff 8, it's a horrible downhill.
It's not that big of a difference. It's like a
big
game.
difference.
I
It's a
mean,
big
Georgia.
difference. It
What are you
won't
talking
happen.
about?
About Georgia right now.
It's like one game.
Georgia's on top of the conference.
Right, but in the playoff they're not. They're dropping. Are you talking about 1 to 8 in the conference?
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be that big of a difference.
It will.
I don't think so. And we want to be Georgia. Georgia's another team we got to worry about. They've got a lot of money and a lot of resources and a big network.
I think I think ideally the parity like that would be more enjoyable. I just don't think it's
I don't think it would be.
I
I
don't
don't
think
want that parity.
It's
I
gonna-
think that's gross.
I'm telling you, it's going to be player development and who's your quarterback.
Well, I think it'll be like this. I think it's going to be more like the NFL, than it has been like college historically, but it won't be the NFL. And even in the NFL, there's a lot of disparity between the top and the bottom. And there's a reason that a team like New England was dominant when they were dominant, and it wasn't anyone else that was like New England.
Yeah, they had a coach in Tom Brady.
They had a coach in Tom Brady,
And it didn't matter who, and it didn't matter who they put around him.
So when you look at those teams,
because they were out coaching everybody and had the best quarterback
exactly,
in the game.
and you can't hope to necessarily be New England. So the Cleveland Browns were never going to be New England. It doesn't matter. They could hire Bill Belichick. They're never going to be New England because they don't have what it takes. And we're trying to be New England. We're trying to be the Patriots of a tremendous 15.
I don't even understand the argument anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if I do either. But what I think.
So where are we at right now in the pecking order?
We're the Browns.
Where are we at in the SEC right now?
We're in the middle.
What middle?
The middle of the conference.
12th? 13th?
No, the middle of the conference. We're 8th.
I don't think we're 8th in the
As
conference.
a program?
How many
After
SEC,
this year?
How many SEC victories
How many
do we have?
programs do you think are
Two?
bigger and better and badder than us?
Auburn and Alabama. That's the only 2 conference games we won.
It doesn't matter
We're not
who's
middle
bigger and
conference.
badder.
No, we're not talking about wins and losses.
Can we go from 8?
I'm talking about wins and losses over a I'm talking about wins and losses over a 10-year span.
But I'm saying, can we go from 12th this year to 3rd in the conference next year?
Absolutely, we can.
Exactly. That's what I said.
But
all the teams
but
are
it's
going to do this
But,
year in
but
and
you
year
don't,
out.
you don't, you
And
don't
it's going to
say
be
it's-
based on your quarterback and how many
No.
returning players you got.
No, I'm saying
And
if we
who
have
you
another
hired?
year like this, we might be screwed. We might be done. Put a fork in us. Lucas is right. We're toast.
Tennessee was
Clip that.
toast.
What's the marker on that?
That was a hypothetical of Lucas is right.
Tennessee
I'm
was
scared.
toast.
What I'm saying is I'm scared, Jay.
Tennessee was toast.
Tell me I should be a homer and we're going to
And
win.
they hired a coach we fired. They're in the playoffs.
Florida was incredible, and then Urban Meyer left, and they've been.
But
dog shit ever since.
all of these guys who got hired that we're mentioning, Dan Lanning, Josh Heupel, they got hired at their program right when NIL got off the ground. Like they're
Right.
not having to come in and make corrections to that part of what they're doing.
The next person's not going to have to either if someone replaces Brink.
They're gonna have to do.
They're going to have to do a lot. And it's not Texas. My point is we're not Texas. If I'm Texas,
We don't have unlimited money,
yeah, exactly. They can reload and they can keep trial and error in it.
and they
can't.
did. That's exactly what they did, and it worked.
And it finally has worked. I'm scared because I don't think we can just recreate. We can't rest on those laurels of what we've been in the past, and we don't have the resources that they've got. That's why I'm concerned.
I think you guys vastly are underestimating what proper coaches can do to a football.
If that was the case, James Madison would have been in the playoff last year.
They probably almost
Well, they
were.
weren't allowed to play in their conference championship last year. Remember?
Jesus Christ. Formalities.
There's my
Well, they
point
would
right
have
there.
kept their coach,
How about that?
and he wouldn't have lost their coach,
There,
and they'd be
that's a
nobody
perfect.
again.
That's a perfect example. He brought a bunch of James Madison football players with him and
Yeah,
his coaching
and what
staff,
Good. Indiana
and turned
squad.
Indiana into a one-loss team in the playoffs.
And they got their ass beat
So
because the
what? They were
players
one-loss
aren't
team
very
in the
good.
playoffs.
And that's
The
it.
players
And
are
that's
not
for
good.
But this was year 1 of him
Yeah.
bringing
James
lower-
Madison.
His players over
How
and
could-
then losing them
Is he
and
going
then
to do
what?
that again? Yeah.
all of his lower tier players from James Madison.
So how
Yeah,
is
so
he
now
going
what's
to
he
do it
gonna
again?
do? He's gonna have to actually go and recruit guys that come to freaking Indiana.
Yeah, now they
Good
do.
luck.
They
Yeah.
want to come there now.
Bullshit. No way. Indiana will never be relevant in the talks of
I agree.
winning a national championship.
I'm not saying
Ever.
they have to become relevant. I'm just saying I don't understand why you want. I get why you want to be in this top 3 for the next decade in the SEC. Of course, everybody does. It's gonna wave,
But here's the deal. So what I'm
and
saying is,
every team is gonna
Okay.
wave.
you've got two options.
Bama's
here.
already starting
Okay.
their wave.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt
Starting
going the
now.
other way.
Vanderbilt's coming
And
this way.
Vanderbilt's going to be a 0.
And they'll
Florida's
stop.
been this way, and
Vanderbilt's gonna
Florida's
stop.
gonna start
So
coming up.
here's my proposition.
Nico's not everything that Tennessee thought, and maybe Tennessee's
10
down
years
the
from
down
now,
wave.
who's going to be good? Who's going to be better, Ohio State or Indiana?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Bullshit.
Yes.
Ohio State is going to be a lot
Stop.
better
Don't
than
have
Indiana.
any
Stop.
idea.
There's
Not
no
even
way.
close.
It's and again, so I understand the argument. Like, great job, Indiana.
So Ohio State can't
fought
hire
your
the wrong
conference.
coach?
I'm not saying you can't.
They
but,
have to. They
but
have to
they'll-
screw up.
but they'll fix it.
Indiana has to catch fire.
And guess what? People will still go to
And
Ohio
teams
State.
will screw up.
No, but people will still go to Ohio State. The second Indiana becomes another mid to lower mid team, nobody wants to go there.
So people will still go to Ohio State regardless.
Yes.
But people won't
It's
go
a
to OU.
brand. It is a brand.
It's persistent.
So our brand is just trash.
Our brand
Our
is
brand is good.
approaching. Our brand is
it's-
approaching danger
Yes.
of not being relevant.
Yeah. It's approaching Nebraska.
It's approaching Nebraska.
who may
Bam,
be,
Lucas won the argument.
who may be pulling it out.
I'm just saying. I understand.
We're
the
not
sentiment.
saying we're going to be bad.
Right.
We're saying
I
we
am.
could be bad.
And I
He's
think-
saying we're going to be bad.
And Jay, I think you will see some teams that come up and are on the rise, and then you'll see other teams falter and then fall. At the end of the day, the cream is going to rise to the top of the best programs. I'm not in here.
It's going to be the same 20
I'm not
programs
a
it's
fan-
always been.
I'm not
And
a
it will.
fan.
I agree.
Yes, that's exactly.
And
what
they're
I'm
all going to take turns being 1 through
Here's
20.
the difference, though. If you look back at the top 10 teams in the 1950s, it's remarkable how many of those names are the top 10 teams of this decade. There's a few differences, but it's an extraordinary level of persistence. The only big difference is we don't have to be one of those teams, and Texas does. Ohio State does. Michigan does.
It's going to be like a freaking 36-team league, and we'll be in
Now
it.
that
And it's going to
helps.
come down to coaching and scheming
That
and
helps.
development and everything else.
And if that's the case, then I
Because
agree with
there's
you.
only so many top 300 high
But we
school players in the
still wanna be
country,
the top,
and they're all going to the same 30 schools.
but we want to still be one of the top teams in that 36 or 64. Or
Some years
whatever
you
it
will,
is.
some years you won't.
It's not going to be like it's totally interchangeable, though. Even in a 36-team league, you're going to see a consistency of
consistency.
who's the best.
You'll see
And who's the best is going to be the ones who can put it together.
That's
And
why
who
you
can put it together is the ones who have resources and a brand. And for those who don't have those things as much as the others, who punch above their weight. And we're
It
going to have
takes
to figure out a way to do
one
that.
more season next year for Bama of having 8 wins, not making the playoffs, or Jalen Milroe doesn't come back and they don't have a quarterback on campus for the next year. Is Bama just gone off the face of the planet? No.
No,
They'll rebuild in a couple of years and be right back up.
but
They'll
Bama,
fire their coach. Rebuild.
but Bama and Texas are not the same. They're not the same. And Bama is in the same position as us. They don't have the resources that Texas has. They don't have to be good.
So basically, we live in Ohio State and Texas world, and everyone just has to get on board with it.
It's not far from the truth.
There's some
honestly.
worry there.
We've all
There's
lived in
some truth to
A&M's
that.
world. What are they doing?
They're an anomaly.
But that can be a product of what you just said as well. The two things can exist together.
Yes.
You can have all the resources, but you still have to have the coaching. A&M has had the resources. They have not had the coaching.
You also have
Or
to
the
have
development.
you also have to have the desire for the standard, the excellence, and you have to seek it. A&M hasn't. Look at it. Look at a program like South Carolina. Something I've always said about South Carolina: that team has never deserved their fan base. Their fan base shows up 100,000 strong, rabid fans to a team that is perennial mediocre. They don't deserve their fan base. If you've got a fan base, that helps a lot. You've got a brand that helps a lot. But you want all of those things working in the right direction. My fear is that we don't have enough of we are not in the luxury of having, which is the luxury and also the curse of teams like Texas, where they could always fall back on resources. And the curse really hit A&M. But we also don't have the luxury of we can rebuild out of nowhere. And Texas spent more than a decade. They spent 2 decades in the wilderness, and they came back. They came back with Mac Brown, and then they came back now with Sarkisian.
And guess what happened when they came back now? They had money that they were allowed to
That they
legally
can
spend
Use.
on players. And they used it, and they were better. And they've made the playoffs.
So what I'm
2
saying
years
is
in a
They
row.
had better players. They've out recruited us for 20 years.
Yeah, but they didn't have the coaching. Like, I'm not saying, like,
That's what I'm saying.
But everything
if you
is
get
coming
the right
together.
coach and
Then-
you get the right
Yeah,
the
so you're
right
spending the money.
scheme
You're
and you get
spending
the
money
right
that
player development,
So who would you rather be at this point, though? OU today or Texas 4 years ago with today's NIL world? I think you'd rather be Texas 4 years ago in today's NIL world. You got more to work.
Julian
I don't know. I want to be who we are today with Texas's schedule.
I agree with that. Here's the deal.
So I don't think it's that big of a difference.
I think it's a
Tex-
big difference.
No, I'm saying schedule wise, Texas might not even be in the playoffs with our schedule
this
this
is
year.
true. This is true.
And we might be in the playoffs with Texas schedule. And we're all sitting here not having this type of podcast.
I know, but
And that's with a shit team.
what I'm saying is we don't have the resources. We've got to do something different than Texas does. We got to moneyball this thing because we don't have the money they got. We could if you
I think-
would start
Okay,
betting
but I think you
and double
can
down on all
Moneyball.
your picks. You would have enough money.
I think you
could
can
bankroll this whole
moneyball
thing.
college.
You think you cannot or can't?
I think you can.
I think you can
I
too.
think we're moneyballing the wide receiver position
Oh, I think
group
you-
right now.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree.
I don't think you can.
Is it sustainable?
I don't think you can moneyball quarterbacks. I don't think you can moneyball offensive defensive lines.
I completely agree.
Anywhere
with
else
you
from that,
100%.
I think you can moneyball the hell.
And I
out.
think the difference is, I think at Oklahoma you have to. At Texas, I don't think you have to, and you can win.
Texas will start. It'll.
Tell
This
me
is-
Texas is going to lose.
No, this is a bigger issue. If you're developing your core of your football team through high school and through people staying, those teams that do that in general are going to be the teams that stay. Texas keeps replacing with 5-star guys that they're stealing from other schools. At some point, those players, for whatever reason, it's not going to work. Now, as long as they're just doing it at receiver, which unfortunately is kind of what they're doing a receiver and a DBs and stuff. So it's working. They're doing it the right way, in my opinion. So unfortunately, it's probably going to keep going well for them. But they're losing. Okay, they're going to start losing these linemen that the original pancake NIL deal, right? These guys have all played 3 years together, all of them, right? They're like, if that starts to not be as good as it was, and they start cherry picking players on the O line and different stuff, they'll have a downfall too.
But they have the money to be able to cherry pick the biggest, best guys.
But they're technically not spending more than us than what we know.
But they are in NIL.
They're
Yeah,
not.
They are. Yes, they are.
It's not much more. No, it's not.
It's like 8 or 9 million.
We're gonna reach 22 million or something this year in NIL.
I don't. I thought with the last I saw we were at 14 and they were at 22.
Yeah, and we're expected to go up to that like 22 range.
So my point is, if we stack up resources against Austin, we don't compete. We're not close.
I know, but they're not going to 40.
They're going to spend a lot of money.
We're not going to be stuck at 20
They've
and they're
got
at 40.
more money than us.
I
We've got to be
don't
better in
think
other
you're gonna-
facets because they've got more money than us.
I don't think any team is going to be able to just year in and year out spend exorbitant amounts of money.
I think there's a limit, but I do think that they've got an advantage.
I don't think it's enough
The only
of a
point I'm
limit.
making is they have a big advantage over us.
I don't think
that
it's
we've got to
enough
supplement with something else.
to outpace player development, scheme, and coaching.
Well, it's got to happen though, right? And it's got to continue to happen. Otherwise, you're like Auburn is, and you're just struggling to find a coach and get it together. And you won a national championship, and then where is it? We're not competitive anymore. I don't want to be that team. I want to be a team that finds a coach. You keep a coach. He's here for 20 years, and you're winning. The way that the history of OU college football has been. I'm afraid that we're going to get into a realm where that's not us anymore. And that's my fear of Brent Venables not working out. And it's not. I'm scared that if this doesn't work out, my God, the next hire is crucial.
They're all crucial.
It's more crucial than
It always felt crucial.
That's more
Anytime
crucial.
you're looking for a new head coach, it was a crucial
it's
hire.
more crucial.
When was the last non-crucial head coaching hire?
At OU, it probably always is to maintain that standard.
Yeah.
It probably always
All
is.
these schools are. Trust me, if Ohio
But it's
State
worse.
gets rid of Day or whatever, it's a crucial hire.
But you don't get that crucial hire. You could be Nebraska, who may never get back there. And they're struggling to get back there. Thank God for them, they have the fan base they've got. But so to become Oklahoma State, we'd have to spend 20 years in absolute doldrums. And we could get there, but it'd be really tough. It'd be really bad.
I don't think the
I
fan
don't think
base,
that's a risk.
community, city, state would even let it get to that.
But how would they not? It's not like a will thing. They can't just say we're gonna be better.
Because there's always good coaches coming up. There's always
Apparently
the
there's
next coach.
Because no one else is at this level. No one else is doing what we're doing. No one else has had the success that we've had with a program like we've got. Other than the fact that we've got great history, we're not comparable to Texas and Michigan. We're comparable to Auburn and
Yeah, we've made significantly better hires than Texas has.
we have, and that's the only reason that we've been better than
And we
them.
can make
We've got to continue
good
to
hires
do that, and
again.
we've got to continue to
Yeah.
keep them. To me, I look at it as there's nothing written in stone that Oklahoma football has to be the best in the world. And we've been the best in the world.
No, we haven't. We've been good.
For the last 75 years, we've been one of the top 3 programs, no doubt about
We've
it.
been elite.
Okay.
We've been absolutely elite.
Okay. Well, for the last 30, we've been really good.
For the last 30, we've been one of the best programs. We've won more games than anybody else except Boise State, and we know who they played over that time span. So it's not just like you can just go find Bob Stoops and keep him and make it work. I'm scared Lucas is right, is all I'm saying. And I don't want Lucas to be right.
I don't want to be right.
He doesn't want to be right. Well,
Except for one thing. The locks of the week.
The locks of the week. Let's talk about the locks of the week. Locks of the week brought to us by 5 Star Concrete, patios, sidewalks, driveways, shops. Call them or text them 405-306-3014 or look them up on Facebook, 5 Star Concrete. David and Josh, they do a great job. Well, let's talk about where we stand with locks of the week. Because we're in a weird bowl situation, we've got some games still outstanding, but we do have records up to this point. So let me update us on where we are. I think one of our picks was Arkansas, who's winning pretty handily. I won't include that one in these totals, but I've got myself at 37%, 18 and 31. Next is Lucas at 22, 26 and 2, 46%. Connor, 23, 24 and 2, 49%. Jay, 34, 15 and 0, 69%. That's a total of 97, 96 and 4. We are 50-50 as a group, basically. The listeners done really well, 27 and 23, 54%. I think the listener might have Arkansas. I don't know. I don't remember from last week what you guys had picked. But let's run through what you guys have and find out. Who wants to start us off?
I can go with the listener of my own.
All right.
So we'll start with the listener. Our listener this week is Christian. He has LSU getting 3.5 against Baylor. I think we all talked before the pod. Interesting line.
That's been trending towards Baylor.
Yeah, so not sure what's going on there. LSU's going to have some guys out or what, but we'll see. He's got Bama giving 12.5 against Michigan in the rematch from last year's Rose Bowl. And then he has Boise getting 11 against Penn State. So it's got the Broncos there. I'll go with mine next. I've got Notre Dame getting 2 against Georgia. We'll see what Georgia's quarterback can do. I think Notre Dame is going to be a little bit too stout defensively for them though. Got Texas giving 13.5 against Arizona State. I think that's going to be a rout. And then I've got Oregon getting 2.5 against Ohio State in a rematch from a previous game this year. So a couple playoff, I guess all playoff games for me.
I like those picks, except your Texas pick, to tell you the truth.
I don't like it.
I know you don't like it, but I actually almost went with Arizona State getting those points. I don't know if that's just wishful thinking or what, but I'll tell you what I have between you and Christian. I've got a lot of agreement. I like Boise State getting 11 against Penn State. I like Notre Dame getting 2 against Georgia. And I like Alabama giving 12.5 to Michigan. I think that Alabama has got what it takes to put Michigan in their place.
I unfortunately have 2 of the same ones as Steve, so that's very disconcerting.
You're screwed.
I have Boise plus 11 over Penn State, Notre Dame plus 2 against Georgia, and I have South Carolina minus 10 against Illinois.
At that, then
I will stay away from the LSU game. I will also take South Carolina minus 10. I'm going to take Ohio State minus 2.5. They looked darn good. And Ole Miss minus 17.
against who's that?
Duke.
Duke.
Right.
The Dukies.
Quarterless Duke. Quarterbackless Duke.
Well, I tend to like that, even though it's a lot of
It's a lot of
points, but I think they can pull that off. I think they can do that. Well, Connor, do you have some trivia for us?
I do. Trying to kind of go along with the theme of today's game. How many times has OU played a team from the armed forces? I did not get a lot of time to fact check this, so let's see how correct I
Okay,
am.
well, we played Navy and we lost to them in 65, I think,
And today,
and today.
I was there.
So there's two.
Beat Army in overtime.
Beat Army in overtime at home.
Beat
We played
We
Air
beat Air
Force.
Force in
2001.
2001.
In Colorado Springs and at home.
Are you including Texas A&M as an armed
No,
forces?
no, unfortunately, I'm not including the fake cadets.
I think we played Army in the 50s, but I'm not sure. So let me think if we played Air Force one other time. I don't think we played Air Force any other time.
I think we hosted Air Force.
Oh yeah, we hosted Air Force. That's right. Yeah, we beat them.
I'm going to say 7.
So that would be,
What about the Coast Guard
and
or the Marines? Why don't they get teams?
it's true.
Or Space Force? I can't believe when Trump started Space Force,
Well, give them
they
another
didn't
shot.
automatically give them a college football team.
Give them another
The
shot. at
Coast
it.
Guard could be a pretty sweet place to go play school.
Yeah. I'm gonna say 6. You
Put it
said
in-
7. I
Put
say
it down
6.
in Key West.
What do you got, Jay?
I have a friend, Jason Newby, was stationed in Key West for the Coast Guard.
There you go.
We
That's-
counted 5 for sure, right?
I'll say 8 because I have no idea from anything from 1998 before that.
Jay, you're really annoying. It is 8. And it's just like, I think he's done this multiple times with prop bet or with trivia and gets it correct. So we played Army 4 times, Navy twice, Air Force twice. Played Army in 46, 59, 61, and then most recently in 2018. Unfortunately, we didn't get the return game there. I was really looking forward to going up to West Point for that one. Played Air Force in 01 and most recently in 2010.
You can thank China for that.
And then, yep, we had Navy, as you said, in 65, and then today.
So what? Those first 3 games against Army, we probably lost in 46.
I don't know school.
Oh.
Probably won in 51.
Yeah, we definitely won in probably won in 51.
They won the national championship in 45
59,
until OSU stole it from them.
46, 59,
Yeah,
60.
49, 50. Yeah, 46, 59, and 60. So we probably lost in that would be still Wilkinson. I don't know if you could look that up. That'd be kind of interesting to see if we won or lost those games. Do we have a prop bet of the week?
We do. And Steve, thank you for helping me out. I think the prop bet of the week is over under. Did we say over under or we say total?
Oh, over under.
Over under on the number of games that the remaining SEC teams will win.
In the playoffs?
So we can only do the playoffs that are currently scheduled. Okay. Scheduling maybes. So currently there are 8 games remaining.
7.
7? Counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Counting 8.
They're not 8 games though. It's an odd number of games.
USC, A&M plays tonight. So we don't want to count that.
Playoff games.
Playoff games.
Oh, we're only saying playoff games. I
Yeah.
thought we just meant total.
Oh, we could do that. I
mean-
thought you were going to say how many SEC. I was thinking we would do a prop bet of some number over under on the number of SEC playoff victories.
Okay. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
you could do whatever.
No. I like that. I think it's more. So yeah. So Texas and Georgia being the only
remaining
teams in the playoff.
I'll say
and
2.
and they're on the opposite side, right?
2.
So they could. Well, we're not calling it. He's got to give an over under.
Under.
Under
I was gonna put the line at 2.5.
2.5 at 2.5. So 2.5 victories for SEC teams in the playoffs. And confirm for me, am I right that Texas and Georgia are on the opposite side? They could
That's
meet
right.
in the championship.
I'm looking right now.
Not after Notre Dame beats Georgia, they can't.
Exactly.
Yes, they are on opposite sides. So you could have a third
Rematch.
game,
Yeah,
again.
try. You got the third. Yeah.
a second rematch
Ugh, gross.
in the national championship.
Gross.
eventually.
I'll go under because I think Texas wins 2.
Georgia loses to Notre Dame.
to Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I like under.
I like under, and I'm gonna say 1.
Under.
1.
I don't think Georgia wins. I think Texas wins
And
against
loses to
Arizona State.
Ohio
and I
State,
think
Oregon?
they lose to Ohio State.
I'm going to say
I like
0.
that.
Arizona State's going to win. Notre Dame's going to win, and the nightmare is going to be over.
So 4 unders.
Hopefully
I
so.
hope so.
Ooh.
Hopefully so. No matter what. It's not just we
feel
want to
good.
be in a good conference. We don't want them to win. That's for sure. I don't know. I think that's good discussion. I think that'll be an ongoing thing throughout the postseason as we look and worry about where our station in life is, what our future is, what we can hope for, what we can dread. No doubt about it. What has to happen is we have to win, and we have to figure things out. Or I don't know. This is going to be an ugly.
So
world.
I saw this right before we started potting. I think I sent it to you guys. But, you know, they do a re-ranking or a ranking of the portal entries
Right,
that you
yeah.
get.
Right.
And OU is currently 16th out of 16 in the SEC in our portal gets.
56 nationally or something
Something
like that.
Maybe worse.
I thought it was 60.
Maybe 67.
60 something.
So we're definitely taking a legit Moneyball approach. Now, there's still more players to get.
More players to lose as well.
How'd the Oakland A's do with that in the long run? Oh, they never did anything. That's right.
No,
But we
they
got the
did-
most important Moneyball piece,
They got
which
you.
was the most coveted quarterback
Oh, we definitely
in the
want
country
to play
that was
Moneyball. And Moneyball's. I mean, Moneyball's what made the Red Sox great. I mean, definitely, we have to play money. The A's were up against an owner who still doesn't want to
That's
win.
all to spend money.
And they, I mean, in their first before everyone else did Moneyball. I mean, he started a trend that everyone else did, and they did it better because they had more to work with. I mean, he had them in the playoffs. It was an amazing run. It was an absolutely
They
amazing.
never made a World Series.
Yeah, but that's like a
That's what
coin
matters.
flip. Okay. So apparently, don't do that. Just like I guess the A's should have just.
I'm out on Moneyball.
You don't like the Moneyball approach?
No.
I mean, Moneyball is it. Like it's revolutionized baseball. It is. That's all there is.
He doesn't
Tell
even
that-
have a favorite baseball.
Tell that to the Dodgers.
So. Well, I
I
think
mean,
the Dodgers
production
still do it,
versus
but the
potential,
Dodgers,
right?
huh?
Production versus potential.
Well, it's not just that. Yeah, I mean, it's that, and it's
It's more like production plus plus potential.
plus
in some
potential.
cases.
It's like being able. The difference is like how good is this guy really versus some old school. He looks good in a uniform.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the kid that went from Texas Tech, the 5-star wide receiver,
Uh-huh.
right? He had 12 catches for 79 yards this year, but he was a 5-star kid. Goes to A&M supposedly for 750,000 plus cars, and I think we mentioned it the last time. Like, do you want him, or do you want the 1,200-yard pass catcher from a lower team?
Well, it
Kennesaw
depends.
State.
I guess what Moneyball tells you is it depends on the price and it
But
depends on
I'm
what
gonna
you're getting.
guess that kid's 100,000,
Right.
and with
Yeah.
1,200 yards
Yeah.
production. So
Yeah.
maybe even if it's a third, right? He's moving to the SEC. It's a third. Okay, he's a 400-yard receiver next year. That's way better than anything we had this year.
Because we weren't playing Ivan Carey anymore.
Maybe true, but I think not to bring it back to the other argument, but that's to my point. We got to play Moneyball. We got to do it. We got to do that, and that's really the route of the future for everybody, just to different degrees. Like Texas can afford to throw away a lot of money on a lot of guys who can't.
I think ultimately what you really need to have is a support staff who are
agree.
great evaluators.
I
I mean,
agree.
great evaluators.
True evaluators.
Yes. And
Not just looking for stars.
if you need to go get NFL draft evaluators from scouts from football teams or somewhere from their management teams that look at all this stuff, then go do it.
That's the opposite of Moneyball.
No, that's exactly Moneyball.
No,
You gotta
because
be-
you had the guys in the room,
thoughtful.
the old guys that are telling
no,
Billy Bean that
no.
you don't need to get this guy because he's 5'10" and
Mm.
does this. You
I'm
need to
talking
go
about
get
there's
this guy.
teams in the draft that do historically better at drafting
Absolutely.
players than
Yep.
Jerry Jones.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Who pick the right players based on analytics, not based on
And you just need to do that out
So
of high
tertiary
school
level.
and out of the smaller schools. You've got to
I think you've got to
evaluate
do
the
that.
players.
I think it's an incumbent. I think it's a must. So OU versus Army, Oklahoma lost in 46, 7-21, won in 59, 28-20, won in 61, 14-8. That was played in the Bronx. That must have been
Oh, wow.
in Yankee Stadium.
That's cool.
And then obviously won in 2018.
2-0 against Air Force and 0-2 against Navy. So
Sad. Very sad.
Air Force gave us a scare too.
So
did. That was
what's interesting
stressful.
is
Yeah.
some of the old guys would think back and recognize this, and I guess I count myself in it. When we lost to Navy in '65, we lost with Delmer Jones as our coach, the replacement to Wilkinson, who was a huge disappointment. So I hope that is not an echo of what we see today.
Roger Staubach playing back then. wasn't he?
Yeah, they had a lot going on.
He
But-
won the Heisman, and they only won 3 games that season.
Something.
Is that right?
That's
Oh.
wild.
Wow, that's
Either
That's
3 or
impossible.
4. I think he went like 3 and 5 or
That's
something. He won the
impossible
Heisman.
today.
oh yeah, obviously, yeah, completely impossible. Well, we're gonna have some stuff here in this off season. We'll come back. We're gonna talk about where we stand in terms of transfer portal and recruiting as everything plays out. We'll do a pod at some point reflecting on the end of the college football season, including the playoffs. And we'll be here through the spring and all of that as we get our hopes built up just to have them dashed again. Anything else to cover? before
One
we
quick
sign off?
question.
I'll go.
Better be quick. I'm ready to end this.
$100. Bet you $100. It's an offense. It's in the top 40.
Don't do 40. You can do 50 and you
I
can
wouldn't
do
take it.
breakfast bet.
45.
I'm not taking 30.
Wait,
better.
which metric?
Yeah, that's
That's a good question.
How about either one?
Okay. Either scoring or total offense.
Why don't we wait?
Yards per game
Why don't we wait
or
till
points per
till
game?
before the spring game so we know who's well? It won't be after the spring game. There's another portal after that.
Just make it a breakfast bet. Do it now.
Because we don't know who else is left.
I've never partaken in the breakfast bets, so I'm in it. I hear you.
Do it.
Partaked.
Do it.
Partaken? Partook? Cheesy?
Breakfast bet. Breakfast bet. Top 40 or better.
In either category.
Which were the 2 categories?
Scoring or yards
Points per game, yards per game. Offensive yards per game, total offense per game, total points per
Well,
game.
that limits me, but you're giving him more options to do better than
Well,
40.
you can. I'm just throwing it out as
Those
an
two
option.
things should correlate relatively well.
Okay, then pick one.
Ooh. I say you go
Yards.
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 Top 40 yards per game. That'll be clean because then we won't have to do some is defense
Math on the
included
defense
in it.
touchdown.
In America. College football.
In the FBS.
Okay.
Top 40.
So
So
we're-
40 or better, you win.
40 or better.
So we're not
Worse than
counting
40,
Temple.
you win.
Temple game doesn't count.
Just no. Yeah. The regular season, just the 12.
Yeah.
End it before the
No
before,
SEC championship.
before
we
the
may not
SEC
They may
championship.
not make a bowl game, so
No SEC
probably have to go off the
championship, no
12.
playoff games.
Well, we're going
Yeah.
to be in the top 40, so we're definitely making bowl.
Ding. All right, so 40 through 12 games.
Okay.
All right, I like
Book
it.
it.
All right, I'm
We're gonna
in.
book it. We're gonna write it down. All right. Well, it's been a season. It has sucked, but we've had fun, and we're gonna be back, and we're going to find a way to win. And until then, Boomer.
Sooner.